Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to another Health Bite. Today, I want to shine the light on a condition that is pervasive, that is all too frequently overlooked by conventional medicine, and yet most people have struggled with it to some degree at some point in their life. What are we referring to? Adrenal fatigue. This is quite simply an overstimulation of the adrenal glands, which is brought on by long-term stress of some shape or form. And this in turn leads to the adrenals becoming depleted. And of course, in turn, they can't produce and put out their many hormones into the circulation to deal with everyday circumstances that come across our paths. And of course, this in turn leads to a whole host of potential symptoms down the line and disease conditions, and we'll get to those in a moment. First of all, let's ask the question, just what are our adrenal glands and why are they so important? Well, firstly, they are two little glands. Each one is about the size of your thumbnail, and they sit at the top of the pole of each of your kidneys. And they are an important part of the endocrine system, so your hormonal system. In fact, they are responsible for putting out approximately 50 hormones. Quite incredible. The most important of those hormones, the one that we're going to really, focus on today, is natural cortisol. This is really crucial because natural cortisol drives almost every bodily function, and many of which are essential for life. Now, you will have heard, no doubt, about the fight and flight response that's associated with stress. So, when situations show up in our life that constitute a threat, whether a real or perceived threat, our adrenals kick in. Now, this threat may be emotional, it might be mental, it might be physical. And in response, our wonderful adrenals put out cortisol and adrenaline to help our bodies to meet the challenge and to do what is necessary to send more blood to our brain, to our heart, to our muscles, to deal with the threat. So as you can see, it's crucial to life, and it might show up in terms of needing this fight and flight response to, in nature, to outrun a lion, for example, but in everyday life, it's showing up all of the time to just to stand up and deal with everyday challenges in our workplace, in our relationships, etc. And when we don't have our adrenals functioning and putting out our natural cortisol, then we feel de-energized. We literally lose that get up and go. So you can begin to see this is going to show up in our functioning in many instances. Now, I said a moment ago that the adrenal glands are also part of the endocrine system. Well, that's important too, because these tiny little glands are crucial in balancing our hormones. And again, if they're depleted, we end up with all kinds of imbalances in our hormones, in deficiencies in hormones, and that is also going to show up in a whole host of ways. Now, as I said earlier, almost every person experiences some degree of adrenal fatigue or adrenal exhaustion, we can also call it. some point in their life. It might be in the short term, it might be in the longer term, and it is sadly overlooked by allopathic medicine. Many don't even recognize it. They say it's a condition that doesn't exist. But for those who struggle with adrenal exhaustion, they will know that it is very real. Even when it is treated in allopathic medicine, usually the cause is not treated, and instead these folk are given drugs, and the situation just gets worse because the underlying reason for it all is not corrected. It's also, unfortunately, very difficult to diagnose with tests in conventional medicine, and many of their tests end up falling in the normal range, and so they say, no, this is you don't have this condition. They test cortisol levels, they test thyroid levels, but it's simply a snapshot in the dark, and so many people are told, there's no problem, or they're given thyroid drugs and so on, which is not the solution. Just before I go on, in case this is an area of interest for you, when we do research on adrenal exhaustion, there's also another condition called adrenal insufficiency, and this can show up as disease conditions called Addison's or Cushing's. Okay, this is not what we're referring to. It's not adrenal insufficiency, this topic of today. It's adrenal fatigue or adrenal exhaustion. Okay, there is a difference. So moving on, let's look at the symptoms of adrenal fatigue, and you can think for yourself about whether this might relate to you, or perhaps it's related to you in the past. So the first symptom will not surprise you. It's simply chronic fatigue. Okay, it makes sense, doesn't it? If your stress hormones can't respond to everyday stresses, well, you're going to feel low in energy, chronically fatigued. So that's a major symptom. Brain fog. This is another one that goes hand in hand with adrenal fatigue. Hair loss. Men and women can end up having very thinning of the hair. Hormone imbalances. We said it was an important part of the endocrine system, and so women can show up with really sort of quite extreme symptoms of PMS, and symptoms around menopause. Men too can also show up with hormonal imbalances and feminization, etc. Another symptom is lightheadedness. Weakened stress response. So, as I've alluded to, we lose the energy to get up and go, the drive to do things. When people say, oh, I just don't have the energy to do things, well, think adrenal fatigue. It also shows up as decreased libido, as moodiness and irritability. Okay, so if you're normally an easygoing person, you find yourself just being, irrational or moody, again, think of this. It can lead to depression. It can also lead to muscle and bone loss. A variety of skin ailments can show up. The sleep cycle is disturbed, so you're out of sync with the circadian rhythm. You can't fall asleep at the normal time. You're tired during the day. Your cycle is all over the place. Sometimes even sleep apnea can be linked to adrenal exhaustion. On the food side, a lot of people develop food cravings and can lead to weight gain. But also on the flip side, some people just lose their appetite. So it's, as you can see, they're very diverse symptoms, and if they're not addressed at this point, it can then steadily progress to more serious disease conditions. So now let's look at the causes. Now we've already already said, it's fundamentally chronic stress. So this can show up as us literally, trying to live our life by burning the proverbial candle at both ends. This can be related to our work situation, our family situation, looking after, children and, partners and so on. Not saying no, not learning to say no, and just overdoing things and exhausting ourselves. Sometimes it can also be as a result of ongoing financial hardship. This is a chronic stress for many. Toxic relationships, that's a chronic stress. And also just unhappy ongoing work environments. Again, all of these can lead to depletion of our adrenal glands. And many people respond by just drinking coffee all day or having energy drinks, and this is not going to serve them. It will give them a short bout of energy, but then ultimately it will deplete them even more because they haven't treated the cause. They're just taking a quick pick me up. Acute stresses can also lead to adrenal exhaustion. So if someone's going through a divorce or the loss of a loved one, these kind of things, that too can be quite overwhelming in the shorter term and can lead to adrenal exhaustion. Other causes are ongoing exposure to environmental toxins of various forms, pollution, and negative emotional mindsets are also a form of chronic stress. So when people perpetually think in a negative way, are in a state of depression, this also leads to excessive demand on our adrenals. If we're not observing our sleep patterns, this too can lead to adrenal exhaustion. So it works both ways. If we're not sleeping properly, it leads to adrenal exhaustion. But then when we have adrenal exhaustion, it in turn makes us even more exhausted because it upsets our sleeping patterns. If we're eating a poor diet, and this is just, we're going to talk about diet in a short, in a moment, but just bad diet choices, also crash diets. This is going to be a huge workload on our adrenals. Not exercising properly will also not help. People who struggle with chronic pain can be really eroding and depleting of the adrenals. Food insensitivities and allergies, that too can lead to adrenal fatigue, and not letting go of adverse events in the past, whether that be in our childhood or any time in our life, and just holding on to that and mulling over it and living it again and again, just not able to let go of past histories. This too can be very draining to our body across the board and our adrenals. And then finally, surgery too. Surgery is really quite invasive to the body, and in and of itself can put excessive load on our adrenals. Okay, so you can see that there's many causes. In a nutshell, chronic stress is what is the cause. Many people go for years without ever consulting a physician or a natural medicine practitioner, and so they struggle with this and it gets worse and worse and worse, and without knowing that there are simple solutions to it, and we'll get into that soon. All right. Now, I said that the allopathic blood tests are really not very helpful. They can be very misleading. They can be downright wrong, and they can get people onto, down the wrong path on a bunch of drugs that are not going to help. There are a couple of, interestingly, safe home tests that you can do to help to identify adrenal fatigue. And I'm not going to go into them right now because they take quite a lot of explaining. But if you really are feeling like, this is something you're struggling with, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to go into those. But you don't even need to do these home tests. If those symptoms are ticking the boxes for you, then it's enough to start treating this as adrenal fatigue, because guess what? The natural treatment is going to help you across the board, whether or not you actually have adrenal fatigue. It's going to be of help. So you don't even have to do these home tests. Okay, but again, if you do want to have a specific diagnosis, I would rather suggest that you go to a naturopath, a natural medicine practitioner, because they recognize it, they know how to respond to it, and your local GP is probably going to, just, not be able to help you very much. Okay, so with all that said, let's talk about how we treat adrenal exhaustion. And we're going to talk about this in three main categories. First of all, following an adrenal exhaustion diet, how do we repair and nourish our adrenals? Well, think good healthy fats first of all. Okay, so things like coconuts, and avocado and olives, and all those other healthy fats that we've talked about in many of the health bites. You want to have loads of those. Your adrenals love healthy fats. They also love cruciferous vegetables. Okay, so that whole family of cruciferous vegetables, wonderful for your adrenals. Load up on those. And good, healthy, fatty fish, such as your wild caught salmon. You do want to try and choose fish that is organic. Free range chicken, that can be helpful. Nuts and seeds, again, this is the emphasis on those healthy fats. Bone broth is also really helpful for the adrenals. Also, your kelp and seaweed. This is a great source of iodine. That's also going to be super helpful. So, make sure you load up on that every day. This is something that so many people don't, really have. You also want good salt in your diet, whether it's Himalayan salt or your local, Atlantic sea salt, something similar. Fermented foods always are great. They're a great source of probiotics. So whether it's the kimchi or kefir, kombucha, these are great in supporting your health in this regard. And then I'm going to throw in medicinal mushrooms. You'll know from past health bites, I'm a big fan, very supportive of the adrenals too. Whether it's reishi mushrooms, or chaga or cordyceps, they're all great. Add them to your drinks, your soups, your smoothies. All right. On the flip side, what you don't want to be eating that's going to deplete your adrenals is living on coffee. I have no problem with good, healthy, organic coffee to be enjoyed. But when you're having 6 a day just to keep you going, while you choose to have a lifestyle that is burning the candle at both ends, it's not going to help. And during your recovery, you actually want to cut out coffee for a while, because you don't want to be giving this artificial stimulus to your body. So cut out the caffeine, whether it's coffee, tea, or many of these drinks that like sports drinks and so on. You also want to cut out refined carbohydrates, all the white flours, etc. Sugar, refined sugar, those nasty sweeteners that are put in so many things, and really processed food across the board. If it comes in a package, and it's had lots of preservatives, etc., added to it. You really want to avoid it. It's not helping your adrenals. You don't want to be using your microwave. You know my feelings about that. This is not helping our adrenals either. And you also want to cut out all those nasty genetically modified, genetically altered oils, these hydrogenated oils, the canola, the margarine, etc. Okay, so those are the key things with regards to diet and supporting good, healthy adrenals. And take note of this, even if you don't have symptoms of adrenal fatigue, remember these symptoms, these foods rather are going to enhance and support your adrenals and make sure that you always do have the get up and go and plenty of energy and ability to respond really well to life's challenges and circumstances that show up. Category 2, I just want to briefly talk about some supplements or herbs that are particularly good for supporting you in nourishing your adrenals and helping you in stressful situations. And number 1 in this regard is ashwagandha. Okay, love ashwagandha. You can get it from your local health shop. Add it to your drinks every day. It usually comes as a form of a powder. Add it to a smoothie or drink. It's really, really wonderful in balancing our hormonal system and replenishing our adrenals. The next one that deserves mention is rhodiola, and specifically rhodiola rosea. This is a wonderful herb for countering anxiety. So if you do have a lot of stress and you just want to, relax and become calmer, and right there, it's going to help you, to not be putting so much demand on your adrenals. Rhodiola is wonderful. And then the third one that I'll give mention to is licorice root. Again, can be obtained from health shops. And why licorice root? It helps to increase a hormone called DHEA in our body, produced in our pituitary gland, and this in turn is necessary for stimulating our adrenals to produce cortisol. So it's kind of like a domino effect. You want enough DHEA, and licorice root helps with that. So those are 3 really good supplements when it comes to supporting your adrenals, together with those that diet that that we talked about a moment ago. And then the third category that we have to put a great deal of emphasis on is, of course, limiting stress in our life. Okay, treat the cause, always, 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 as you know. So listen to your body. If you're feeling exhausted, rest. Take time out. Reduce your everyday to-do list. Keep it to a minimum. Get to bed by 10 o'clock in the evening. You really want to be sleeping at least 8 hours a night. In fact, if you do have adrenal exhaustion, you want to be increasing that to 9, 10 hours a night for a while you replenish yourself. And live in alignment with the circadian rhythm. So not going to sleep at 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. It's just not conducive to healing. Do the things you love to do, that bring you joy, that make you laugh. Okay, this is good medicine. It's easy medicine. And hand in hand with that, choose the work. If you need to make big changes in your career and your everyday life, choose the things that reduce stress that you like to do. And this is always possible. Always possible. Okay, so we have to put aside the excuses. Sometimes we need to make major changes in our life to do that. If this is the case for you, then do so. Sometimes it requires more than a tiny tweak here and there. Sometimes we need to make whole-scale changes in how we live. Always possible. Just think outside the box. You also want to be eating on a regular food cycle, so not just everywhere and anywhere. Eat at set times in the day, and and make sure that in doing so you are having nice regular levels of blood sugar, sort of going through your body, and again, not erratically stimulating your adrenals. You also want to adopt the glass half full attitude. So avoid the negative talk, negative self-talk. You might have to avoid negative people. Sometimes we have to distance ourselves from toxic relationships that can absolutely deplete our adrenals. So, make wise choices in this regard, and catch yourself when you're thinking negatively, and turn it around and see the positive. There is always a blessing in every challenge. You want to introduce gentle exercise, but not hectic exercise. Really doing crazy number of hours in the gym, and torturing yourself with many miles on the road. This is not supportive of health. We want to do exercise. We want to keep the body moving, but it needs to be gentle. It needs to lift our spirits, not deplete us and deplete our adrenals. And then make it a priority to have relaxing time, to meditate, to spend time with your loved ones, to do those things you love to do. Don't make them bottom of the list when you've run out of, you've done all the to-do list, and then only you do the things you love to do. Well, guess what? You often never get to that. So make this top of your list. Do those things, and guess what? All the other stuff will find a time to be done. And in some circumstances, one might need support in this regard. One might need counseling if there are traumatic experiences and you find yourself in a very negative mindset spiral. Then by all means seek out the support of people who can help you in this regard. So, folks, there you have it. If you follow those guidelines, none of it is rocket science, but it is treating the cause, and it makes massive differences to your health. You can start to see changes, increases in your energy within weeks of doing this, even if you are really chronically depleted. Some people can take several months, 6 months to heal fully. And I've known some people who are so chronically exhausted can take up to a year or even 2. But it doesn't take that long to start to feel improvements of energy. So if we follow these simple guidelines, know that your adrenals want to heal, your body wants to heal, it readily responds to your efforts. Don't just simply patch up these symptoms with quick fix pharmaceuticals. It's not the answer. Treat the cause, and your adrenals will happily respond, and your energy levels, your vibrancy will skyrocket really in no time at all. So I do hope that's been helpful. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. As always, I send you so much love.